Alright guys, so I just hit record. Welcome to everyone on the YouTube channel, everyone live currently on Twitch. Welcome, good morning. For today's episode, we're going to be going over late rotates in endgame. Specifically, we're going to be mod reviewing Bugha and talking about the strategy of and the option, right? Like most people currently, the current meta are like, I gotta get the zone pool and then I gotta early rotate. And I gotta, get in front of the zone. But having this extra option in your tool belt and having that flexibility, especially when you're in a shambles situation, is very, very invaluable. So we're gonna do today's episode, which is episode 13. If you're new to the show, this is basically like a video podcast called Morning Coffee. We get caffeinated, we browse competitive content. I'm a Fortnite competitive coach for a lot of pro players, if you're not familiar with who I am. And also, really quickly, this is just for you guys over on YouTube. Yeah, what's up with this? Well, talk to me here. Like you guys on YouTube, 67% of you aren't subscribed, and then 30% of my viewership subscribed. Come on. Hit the sub button. Like I know you guys hate people saying subscribe, but like that's ridiculous, man. That's insane. All right, we get caffeinated and we get educated. So I have this VOD pulled up of Bugha doing the late rotate example, right, during a solo cash cup. So we're just gonna quickly go through that, and then we're gonna pull up a couple other examples, and we're gonna probably dedicate episode 13 to late rotate specifically.
Let's go.
So here we are moments before the zone pool, right? And then I believe Bugha gets zone.
Do not.
So yeah, Bugha gets first moving. Let me pull up my Epic pen real quick. That's Epic Games Launcher. That is Epic Pen. Bugha gets first moving, right? And the typical mentality here is, I got first moving, I got decent mats. I'm just gonna path in, right? I'm gonna use this zone RNG that I just got blessed with, and I'm gonna path in and stay ahead of zone. And because we know from previous VOD reviewing that if you're in this position, it takes 550 mats to get from here to here, right? So Bugha's well within that range, and he'll have about 300 mats left over if he were to do that. So what's he do instead?
Yay!
Well, he opts for a late rotate, essentially.
Guys, look at the cash cup mentality. Look at all these kids. Like, look at their cash cup mentality. Wow, that guy just got a laser. Look at everyone's poor cash cup mentality. Like, you guys know, like, I'm really good at this game. Like, watch this. Cash cup players, they're so cringe. Like, I'm actually pretty decent at this game, believe it or not.
So really quickly, Bugha basically sat on his cone here, right? While everyone's, let's make it blue, while everyone's rotating in, he's going the opposite direction. And I think he actually marked dead side, right? So the zone pulled something like that. That was dead side. So he knows the entire, like this whole area of half was dead side to rotate along, right? If we're getting very granular, a common mistake I see people who like are, I guess, Bugha viewers, and they're like, yeah, I saw Bugha do this one time, right? They try to pull the strat off over here in the back, and that there's a huge difference between being here and being here and trying to pull off a late rotate strat, especially if you were here because you were on the congested side, right? Like this is all congested. So those are some very key differences I want to context this entire episode of Morning Coffee with, and just pepper it throughout the episode.
Lols.
Can I turn up Bugha a bit? Yes. For sure. There you go. I just adjust my headset for the volume. Okay. So, very quickly. This whole moment here that we just saw, like this whole end game, late game, rotate, strat or whatever, like wrapping around through the dead side of half-half, finding a nice, like some nice old build. The one thing that confuses me is like, I don't know why he didn't stick to the left side, right? It's left and right, like the middle is the only like no man's land in this moving. I'm not quite sure yet why he wrapped around to the right side. Maybe he saw right side was gonna be dead side, right? Like, yeah, like the way the zone's moving. Maybe he got that specific with it. That could have been it. I'm not sure. But yeah, the whole point of doing a late rotate is like you got the pool, you got a few things going for you and a lot of things not going for you, right? Like you're in a shambles situation, you don't have mats, you don't have like a lot to work with because of your mid game, and you need to like get an impact frag, right? So late rotating allows you to look for that by, you know, taking some guy's old tarp. You know, everyone's tarping in front of you. You find this guy, and then you continue to pressure him, and you actually get the elimination on him. Then you get the siphon, you get the mats, you get the impact frag, and you get into first moving with a relatively free rotate. So that's kind of the entire advantage put into a nutshell, right? And the reason we're doing this episode is because a lot of people, even pros, not too sure how to late rotate. So I just wanted to make this episode to really talk about it for you guys.
But guys, I've been trying to drop. Like, just stop spraying. One moment, please.
Right side had old builds, maybe. That could be it. But yeah. That was the late rotate, right? And that's first moving is really the only time you can implement it. Then from there you have to start playing, because first moving's like, you know, like huge. And then it starts to get something like this, right? Like you can only really do late rotates first moving, right? You get your impact frag and you get your rotate. So like the goal really is to get here with like the impact frag. The siphon and the free rotate from all these other cash cup players or whatever that are pathing in for you, right? It's basically using them as mobility. So quickly we're gonna go ahead. Ever consider having one of these players live on stream to bother you?
I'm kind of dead.
I don't know. Sometimes it's when I bother you, my players, for example, it's to fix a mistake and provide constructive criticism, and giving constructive criticism on stream versus off stream, like it's more it's better received off stream. If we're bot reviewing because a player did something well, I'm not sure.
Okay, not looking too good.
Okay, so he ended up getting eliminated because he got put into like a bad spot after dropping down here. Right here, he dropped down on the dude, and he didn't really have an idea of where the dude was when he edited it down. He kind of had an idea, but because his crosshair was like over here, and I mean, like you guys know, right? It's such a weird angle to like hit something that's like up here and down here because of the way the camera angle works. So like a flick from here to here, for example, like a nice little 180 horizontal flick is probably easier to do than like a flick from like this side to this side because of the weird like horizontal and vertical adjustments that you got to do, right? So that's why it's always better to have your crosshair actually on the dude when you're dropping down, and he like completely whiffs this shot, right? Because of that, because of like all the little micro adjustments that you have to do in that specific moment. And we can like rewatch it again. Yeah, just make sure you set yourself up to not micro adjust like that, right? Right, left, and then right again. And then this, like, not getting this guy, not killing this guy really put him into a bad spot, which ended up throwing his game. So that's that. That's that VOD. And we're just gonna crank through them. We're gonna crank through them and give you guys examples. I'll save the duels one for later. Is this a late rotate?
Oh, see that?
So he kind of late rotates, right? We can watch it. He doesn't full late rotate, but he does let the 30 seconds on the blue timer go by. And very quickly before I jump into this, my concern was doing this episode was that like there's this mentality in Fortnite competitive where like you expose a strat, right? But with that said, through like the course of me coaching publicly, like a lot of people have brought up this strat, right? Like Bugha was doing this live to 13,000 viewers live, right? So it's not like I'm not really exposing anything. It's already out there to all of his viewers, and like the 2,000, you know, YouTube views that I get, which is like nothing, right? So that's just like the little disclaimer on that. That's the one concern I had was doing this episode and doing covering late rotates and making it so public. But like at the end of the day, like it's already out there. People know about it. People are like adopting to it, and I'm just going to provide you guys with like a nice, concise episode to cover it all. So yeah, he's trying to late rotate a little bit, right? He's late rotating on the back border of zone, even though he's congested side, trying to look for that impact frag. He had everything he needed to win the game, mind you, right? He had mats, he had weapon, loadout, shield, everything. He didn't really need an impact frag. So I think my big takeaway from this game was looking back at it now, right? Like if you're gonna late rotate and you're not shambles, like late rotate with the goal of just miss out on that impact frag so that you don't get dragged down. Like put all your focus and energy on like crossing this first, and then after that crossing this, right? Because this is a twofold situation. When you late rotate on the zone pool, there's a difference, right? Because all you have to do is cover this, right? So you have all of this time really to just sit here. You have all this time here to sit just in your cone or whatever, and then like let people get ahead of you and then take your tarp. But when you're back here, you don't have that flexibility, right? So you kind of have to give up that impact frag, and you can't get greedy for it. I think that's my takeaway from this VOD. You'll see shortly what I mean. Yeah, so because he's not focused on the rotate, he gets a little beamed. He's like in the congestion. He's in the thick of it right now. He chased that kill down, didn't really get it. Wasted a little bit of time. You got RPG guy in his box. Yeah. So really he got nothing out of that, but we're still going. Now he's starting to like pick up the pace really. Right, like see a guy, shoot him, don't chase the kill. See a guy, shoot him, don't chase the kill. The other thing is like people are so healthy first moving too, right? So chasing a kills are like really hard first moving. Unless they're like occupied actually pathing. Depending on edit release, I have it off because it messes with my cone edits when I'm just trying to hide in a cone and make an edit to prepare to like sneak kill someone. It was kind of a big deal, but yeah. That being said, I don't know. It could be improved upon. Don't pull back, so all these guys are just going to live. The other thing to watch out for endgame, yeah, it's obvious to like pro players, but for like my casual viewers, if it pulls back, like if zone pulls and then it pulls back and then it pulls back again and then it pulls back another time. I was watching like a Tfue game yesterday where like it did that and there was 10 teams alive by like closing circle because of that. Yeah, just be aware that like a lot of people are gonna live. You're gonna miss out on those placement points. It's just gonna be a tougher game overall if zone pulls back. Like you might think it's better, but it's just so much harder for people to actually die. I hear it like pulls off of all these old builds and finally people are starting to like attack each other. That was so good. I'm gonna rewatch that because it was so good. He was in a nomad situation, just constantly spraying the guy, right? Like he used up his P90 clip. He used up his AR clip. He saved a little bit on his AR just in case, right? He used that up. Like he remembered that he had both. Most people forget. Then once his AR was over, he remembered that he had the grapple. So he started using that up. And because he didn't have a pump, this is probably the only reason this worked, right? If he had a pump, he couldn't swap to anything. Maybe a harpoon, but that would have been awkward. So yeah, it's I guess like maybe in those final situations you want the tack. Or you have to be a lot more conservative about this, but like the pressure he had on this guy was insane. It was awesome. Like he just didn't let the guy rest even though he had height. And he had RP. The guy had height, mats, and RPGs. Okay. So that's that game. Moving on to the next game. Again, for everyone just tuning into the stream, we're covering late rotates and just like end games, and then we're gonna start covering mid game stuff for the next episode for you guys on YouTube. On stream, we're just gonna go right into mid game after we cover the end game stuff. So yeah, this is not ideal for like a late rotate, right? The positioning. Maybe you can like creep up a little bit, or maybe it is ideal. I'm not sure. The other thing, here's the other thing that most people miss. Like he does a really good job of this. He actually marks dead side, right, to help him with his late rotates. So previous circle must have been something like this, right? And he just marks like the dead center of dead side, and then he starts, when zone pulls away from it, he starts to look at it, right? So his eyes are kind of like pointed over here, for like a nice little wrap around late rotate. That's like a small thing if you guys want to like do it correctly. Yeah. So this is like a late rotate gone wrong, right? This goes back to like when you're late rotating, the self-discipline to let a kill go has to be there, right? Like you get this impact frag, right? Like you need materials, you need a pick, and this guy just gave you like a free 74 shield crack, and then you whited him, right? Super free. Right, floppers, max mats, such a good position, but the discipline to let a kill go or avoid a fight during a late rotate, I feel like that's really what sets good late rotates apart from bad ones, right? Like this guy, right? You're back of border, you're both back of border, and this guy completely sees you. He 100% sees you, and you're gonna fight each other, right? Whereas the other guy was a free pick because the guy wasn't even paying attention. The guy was pathing. This is a full-on fight, 50-50, and then that kind of throws your game, and then it kind of tilts you because you just threw away like a full game. You were stacked, and then like you didn't even get placement, right? That's very tilting. So I just from like re-reviewing, I did review all of this before. From re-reviewing, I'm picking up little stuff like that, like just let the guy go or avoid him when you're late rotating. Yeah, this is another one.
Bonkers! God's own! Let's go. I mean, if you guys actually think about it though, it's pretty much this. Oh my god.
Wasn't Bugha's fault there though? He just rotated too late. Wasn't Bugha's fault. Who rotated late? The other guy or Bugha? Right, so I'm guessing you're saying, Creo, you're saying the other guy rotated late, right? So this is a good segue into something I want to talk about, right? The other thing I was worried about by doing this episode or whatever, right? I was worried about like just talking about late rotates, but it's already a thing. I can't stop people from learning about it. Is if like two Bugha viewers, after having seen all of these Cash Cup games and duo winner royales, and Bugha do the strat like to 13,000 viewers live or whatever, like now two Bugha viewers are late rotating, right? And they're all up on each other's junk, right? And what happens in a month from now when like three Bugha viewers are here, let me move my camera real quick for the drawing. Maybe I just keep it here. Yeah, three Bugha viewers, right? And then what if like it comes down to four Bugha viewers at Anaheim, late rotating back here, right? Because that's right. And then what if all fifth ones like in his cone, late rotating, right? And now all of a sudden like half the lobby is late rotating, right? So like does late rotating even work if two or more people are doing it, right? That's the question I have, right? Because the whole thing is predicated upon finding like a nice little tarp and then breaking in, and then you take like the tarp for free, and then maybe you kill the guy, right? Maybe you kill the guy at the end, get the impact frag, or maybe you like break out when the guy sees you, right? But you take the W, right? Like you take the free rotate, and now you're like that much closer to get into zone. Yeah, so I just wanted to quickly talk about that.
It's the same thing as all
like
these
who
guys
knows
getting
where the
zoned. Like,
meta
they got zoned
evolves
too.
to as more and more people become like educated and develop the strat. Like there's already people I talk to like working it out and making it work and tweaking it.
Try some.
I'm not a fan of late rotating either way. Yeah, in my opinion, I feel like early rotates are still better if you're like in a good endgame spot. And late rotate should be kind of like a last resort. Yeah, so here he's late rotating again, right? He got the pull, but he's in the back of zone first moving, and then he got the impact frag.
Huh?
Catches the guy off guard, which is what you tend to find back here.
Hashtag hoggers.
In the back of zone.
Cups moment.
Really rotates are just more safe. Just take that 90% of the time. I agree. I agree with that 100%. His whole strat's predicated upon like other people not knowing how to late rotate. But that is it is something I feel like players should know about to have that option in their tool belt. And then you just become a better player once you know like early rotating isn't the only option. You have more options.
My air aim is just so good.
Like maybe there's a third option, right? Like there's early rotating, late rotating, and maybe there's like somewhere in the middle rotating. And then there's like ultra late rotating, right? Like floppers.
Why did I think that was gonna happen? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I got way too aggro. I got way too aggro.
Yes, this is like a low tier lobby, right? So I'm not gonna spend too much time on it either. This is another one. Did we watch this one already? I think this is the first one we watched. Maybe the first one.
Guys, don't give me first moving. Do not.
Yeah, this is the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first one. And then okay. So we talked about it in solos. We talked about it using it for like a mid game. So the whole, just to contextualize this whole conversation again, right? Like in solos, because the circle and the first circle rotate is so mat intensive, right? Like crossing this as a solo burns 550 mats, right? And crossing this, if you're like full on tarping, I don't know, it looks like it burns like, I don't know, 300 mats, right? So where was I going with this? It's hard to hold height or to use late rotates to make a height play during first moving, because this is so difficult to control, right? Because all the early rotators will fuck you basically. Like people will get over here, and meanwhile you're here, and then like the dude on height's up here, and you're like, okay, I'm a late rotate, you know, and I'm gonna kill this dude. Okay, I killed this dude. I got his mats, and then there's like this guy over here, right? Now it's a 1v1 with the guy having better position than you, even though you got height late rotating, and you killed the guy on height who got it first moving. It's so much harder to hold it because of in solos, right? Now we're gonna talk about using late rotates as a high play in duos, right?
We can
So
like drop someone in first moving, or if we get a nice.
it's a
moving
different
here,
situation
doesn't even matter.
in
actually.
duos.
Oh my god. I think we can.
Do it. What if we made the play?
Yeah. No, I'm down.
Yeah. I have like 160 wood, 250 brick, 450 metal. Right
Yeah,
above.
no. I'm messing with the best
Alright,
side.
this guy, I know I'm triple nicking him, on god.
Yo, I got a kill.
Yeah, that was a solo, but the mat's on the low ground. Nice, good
Why
job.
would he share the strat if it only works if no one knows about it?
Alright, they're building out a metal tarp.
I'm sharing it because everyone knows about it already.
Okay, let's remember this. Play down middle. Other teams from mountain drop down.
Not Smiley Boo,
teams that have a
like
chance probably are
he's up to something.
southwest. I'm gonna go up northeast side.
Because everyone already knows it's safe to share it.
Yo,
It's
there's
not.
kid-
It's
I mean,
been
no,
being
wait,
used
wait.
for like a month now.
Okay, try to follow me.
To
Yeah.
yeah.
You just say head. I think they
So
are.
like I sat on this for a month
Yeah,
already.
they're on that.
Okay, we can take it, we can take it,
I'm
ready?
done. They got RPG down.
Yeah.
Spray the guy in the back. Ready? Go.
Yeah.
I dinged laser. Get that.
Dead.
Go. Try to get the mats off that. I'm building. I'm gonna RPG them. I'm RPGing them.
So this is an example of like a
RPG
dual
them
high
down. You need to go
rotate,
southeast,
by
southeast.
using a
Yeah, I
late
got it,
rotate, right?
We're getting
They're
RPG.
Yeah, they're hard body
You're fine.
RPG,
You
they
got
don't
it.
know what
You
they're
got it.
doing.
Watch it out a little
I
bit.
did. Okay, look. I'm 0-0-1. Oh wait, I got full trap. I'm up.
I connected.
We'll watch the
Dude, he's
height
literally fighting
continue
on
play
that.
it, then I'll rewind it after it's
cracked
all
him.
done.
One it.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're going
one
up.
me down 9. Yeah, fight it.
We can chop.
Yeah,
Just drop.
dead.
Nice.
No.
It plays back for us.
I got the finish.
Okay, I need mats.
Okay, there's an RPG. Hold on. Mats in my box. I have mats. You need to get to me. Here, it's
Good,
fitting.
thank you. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
RPG this guy down right here.
Trying to stay above them.
Get up.
Okay,
I
yeah,
have RPG. I'm playing ultimate. Draw me rockets. You
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they,
no,
they
no.
got height here, right? So they already got height.
I got
Let's
drop.
back it up.
You just say, yo, there's other teams
This guy.
down.
Right, they get the zone pull. They're in their
Got a
cone.
kill. I'm gonna go up northeast side.
First zone's moving.
Yo, there's kid.
They let a guy
No,
slide, right?
wait.
They let him slide
Okay, try to follow.
because they're committing to the play.
Yeah.
You just say head. I think they are. Okay, they're on that.
Okay, we can take it. Ready?
They got our.
Right, so now they're in the back. They've let the team on height rotate ahead of them, and they're coming out to the back. And this is also good to know for multiple reasons, right? Like, it's probably another reason why height is kind of asked to have like first moving, because in today's meta of like late rotators, flopper rotators, and early rotators, right, drawing the circles. Not only are there people ahead of zone, right? Like, if you have a Bugha viewer in your lobby, and you're playing duos, right? So you have guys ahead of zone trying to take your height first moving, and then you got guys late rotating first moving trying to take your height from the back, right? So we've talked about roles in the back, right? Like designating roles to each person, right? Making sure that one guy is like always looking back and one guy's always looking forward, looking for the early rotators and calling out RPG, this guy, marked him. And the back rotator, like, there's a guy in the back, focus him, right? So awareness endgame just has to be there, like that much higher.
Down.
Yeah.
Spray the guy in the back. Ready? Go.
Right,
I
and
think-
this whole again, like, strategy is predicated on like knocking this, and it becomes like a 2v1 on height, right? You get the knock on one dude because he wasn't looking back, he wasn't paying attention. Yeah, so then because it's 2v1, the one like drops down and gives up height, right? So now you have height for free. What ended up happening this game though is like,
Laser. Get that.
actually this is kind of funny, right? What ended up happening this game is Bugha, maybe I should make this one a circle. That would make more sense. Height's a circle. The Bugha kills this guy, right? And then there's a height play from a front team, and then these two teams end up fighting each other. So it's really turning into a shit show.
Go, go.
This meta is really turning
Try to
into
get
a
the
shit
mats
show.
off that. I'm building. I'm gonna
Right,
RPG
so now,
them.
so now you got height off of the first moving team,
RPGing them.
but now you're like 2v2ing a new
A
new
RPG
challenger
down.
that
You need
just
to go up
approached.
southeast.
Yeah, I got it.
We're getting
They're
RPG.
Yeah, they're hard body.
You're fine. You
They
got
don't
it.
know
You
what
got it.
they're
You got it.
doing. Nice,
I did. Okay, look. I'm 0-0-1. Oh wait, I got full.
Yeah, and they're still
I'm
fighting.
Up.
I connected.
Dude, he's literally fighting on height.
Yeah.
I cracked him.
One it.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're going up.
Yeah, fight it.
We can chop.
Yeah,
Just
dead.
chop.
Dead.
Nice.
No.
It plays back for us.
I got the finish.
Okay, I need mats.
Okay, there's an RPG. Hold on. Mats in my box. I have mats. You need to get to me. Here, it's
Good,
sitting.
thank you. Yeah.
Go ahead. RPG needs to get down right here.
Trying to stay above them.
Get up.
Okay,
I
yeah,
have RPG. I'm playing ultimate. Draw me rockets. You have.
Yeah. No.
So the only real way
drop
to
down,
even
I'm fine.
attempt this is if you have an RPG.
We can
I
get
feel
this
like
kill. I lasered him.
to
Yeah, laser,
really
okay.
pressure people off.
He's going out the side.
And just spam it.
Yep.
Like if you can't spam an
I cracked him.
RPG,
Wait, knock,
you have
knock,
no
knock.
business on height.
You did?
Really.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I'm coming up.
First moving at least.
Yo, kid in zone. This is free kill right here.
Mark him.
I marked him. He's pink mark under you.
RPG and like a
Yeah,
shit
try to
ton
hold
of
that, hold
rockets
that.
just to
I'm
like
staying
spray.
I see him. He's coming out middle.
Play side.
Okay, nice. He's coming out the middle.
I don't see it.
He's down there. Yeah, you're not gonna get it. I have rockets. I need to reload this.
Okay, he's playing rockets. You double RPG.
Yeah. Here, half on me. Okay, let's do this. Brick ready? 3, 2,
Wait,
1.
no. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Hit both for 100.
Nice. I'm staying above old builds.
Ready.
Reloading. Give me a second.
3, alright.
3,
What if both
wait,
teams
wait.
focus
Okay,
at
I'm
the same
going.
time? Do you
Okay,
just
okay,
give up?
just get all
You mean
those-
like if you're
all
trying to
those-
hold
all
height
that matters, all
half?
that matters.
Looking down. I'm holding
I
an off
just
angle.
don't know how
Yeah,
like
get him,
holding
get him.
height
Nice,
half
good
is even
Okay, I'm
possible in today's
RPGing under
meta.
if you have time.
Of like late rotators,
beginning.
early
No,
I don't-
rotators,
okay, I'm just
flopper, creepers.
Lasered.
Nice. I still four
Even
poppers,
in
four
duos
poppers.
where
Yeah,
you have
same
a lot of
too.
mats,
Wait,
it just
someone's on
feels
height.
very difficult.
Someone's on height.
Can we spam
Other
out?
than like,
Maybe I'm one build. He's
Probably low. Let's drop low then.
Yeah, I'm down. I have zero
Ready,
builds.
ready?
Let's go.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. You just gotta. This
enemy?
really comes down to
Crack.
being a good
1
pro
HP, 1
duo.
HP
Hold on.
shot. Dead.
Or like, or
Let's go.
getting your
Get the
synergy
minis.
down if you're
So
not a pro duo.
1v2,
Like,
or yeah.
Rockets out there.
No. I have 2. Here, I'll give you 1.
or
Do you
I
have
don't know.
mats?
The only
I do.
way
Okay, place the road
I
build.
feel like Bugha held height
Yeah.
first moving
Just make sure we don't have any like little
was
Yeah, I need one.
because of their
I
like
dropped that rocket, I don't
RPG
know where it went.
forcing the other team
Like,
down. Then they lost it.
Yeah, I have 1. Maybe you can make a play late and go up. How many mats do you have?
I have like not a lot. I have,
Here,
like,
take half.
So
Okay.
Maybe we'll find mats on low ground here too.
I'm gonna go up
I
one.
don't even know if it's
Okay, nice.
rewarding.
I'm just gonna ride low ground.
Yeah, I'm just asking the
Looking for
questions,
angles.
right? Like
I
I'm
can
a
take one
little
tick.
skeptical. I'm also
Okay.
trying to like
You need a pop flop.
think
Yeah,
what would be the better way to do it.
Okay,
I might play. Well, yo, maybe just draw me all heals and I'll play a heal game.
and then I'll just psycho it.
Yeah.
Alright, you need to make sure he does an RPG. I'm gonna run up
Yeah,
an
I will.
RPG. Oh,
I
I
blocked
just double RPG. It's Hogman. He's on height. He's gonna get my finish. Okay, and then I'll just psycho
Yeah.
it.
You're
Alright, you need to make sure he does an RPG. I'm gonna run up an
Yeah.
RPG.
I think Stretch heard the RPG coming down, so he went to block. But Bugha was already committed to the RPG play. So I think
Oh.
Bugha RPG'd himself first. And then broke the builds. And then he got hit by Hogman's RPG.
Double RPG. It's
Um
Hogman. He's on height. He's gonna get my finish.
that's like like a learning
my finish
opportunity
just
for
went
like
down.
you guys who are like watching on stream right now.
Holy sh-
If you're ever in this moment, I think you just kind of, if they have RPG, the comms with you and your duo really have to be there. You have to say like, I'm building to block, don't fire your RPG, right? Because then you end up like, this situation ends up happening.
Here. Take rocket.
I don't have all the
Like it's one of those like
I'm
learn
saying bubble
from
builds.
like someone
reloading,
else's
reloading.
mistake
Give me a second.
type of example, right?
Alright.
3,
Hold on,
2.
wait.
Okay, I'm RPGing under
How'd
if
they
you have
lose
time.
height?
Like if you get an angle
No,
on that.
I don't have
Okay,
any.
They
I'm
had
trying
height
to-
here? How'd they lose it?
Lasered.
Nice. I still four poppers.
Okay, yeah, same. I have 2. Wait, someone's
Oh, some guy like flopper took it.
on height.
Right, so they weren't even looking for it.
Someone's on height.
we spray him out?
Maybe I'm one build.
He's probably low. Let's drop low then. Let's drop low.
Yeah,
Drop
I'm
low.
down, I'm down. I have zero builds, zero
right.
builds. Let's go.
Okay, yeah. Man's cone.
Yeah, so some guy flopper cranked. Yeah, I think maybe you don't drop all the way like this, right? Like when there's old builds
Okay,
above you,
if
you
you
don't
rock,
drop
if you
down
rock,
below the old
Yeah,
builds.
here, half on me.
Like you stay above them.
Okay, let's do this. Brick ready? 3, 2,
Wait,
1.
no. Okay.
Okay, I'm going. Time. Like if you get angry.
Right, like they're very
No,
they're parallel
yeah,
to all these old
I don't
builds. No one's really on ultimate height, right? Like they got a lot of stuff above them.
Laser.
Right, like they're in the mid ground right
Nice.
now.
I still 4 poppers.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
still
same,
in
I
the
have
mid
two.
ground right now,
Wait.
right? And then this guy comes out of nowhere. Yeah, I think just avoiding dropping down like that would have prevented them from getting their height taken. Yeah. Those are kind of all the examples I have archived of late rotating. I think I'm gonna wrap up the episode 13 there. Yeah. I think I did a good job of just like giving you guys a good idea of it. Again, like my concern is, right, like I talked to Kanata about, late rotating, right? And here's the thing, like I've been coaching a lot of people through open coaching, right? And almost everyone I coach is very advanced, I feel like, or at least like they follow competitive very closely. If they know who I am, I feel like they follow competitive very closely. And most of these people who are like going to Anaheim, they ask me about the Bugha late rotates, and I tell them about it and I walk them through how to like improve it. But like if I'm thinking, yeah, if Kanata ever gets zone pull here and he's maxed out mats and he has the ability to do like a late rotate at Anaheim, should he? And then I'm reminded of like all the people that are like already like know about it and know how to do it, and there's gonna be like these people already doing it in the back, right? And it just becomes kind of like a weird situation of like if you're not the only person late rotating, then it becomes just a little bit more difficult to actually pull it off unless you're like on the other side, right? Like unless you rotated this way and there's like one other dude in your lobby who rotated that way. Because if you're not last rotator, then your back, like this whole thing's predicated on having your, like if you're here, then your like entire back should be clear, right? Because you're late rotating, that's the whole point. You're the last one, your back is clear. It's viable in shambles, but you should be good at it in that situation. Yeah, that's the other thing, right? The only way I would say like you should consider it, the only time I feel like you should actually consider it is if you're like 200 mats or like somewhere between 200 and 500 mats, right? If you're in this mat range and you're like, I need to do something to pull it back, then I think you're like, you strongly consider, or like you try to pull it off, because it really is a desperation play. It is a viable height take, right? There's like Bumpa did a video where he only covered like the early rotate to like flank height because of better positioning. He didn't cover late rotating, right? Or talked about it. It is a viable height take option in duos. In solos, not so much, because it's still difficult to hold height in solos. So if you're like fully kitted and you're considering that high take option in duos, maybe. If you're like really good at holding height, first of all, like if you're like a pro duo, and you get 2v2'd after you knock out the dude between you, and you can win the 2v2 from the back of circle, then yeah. But if you're And if you're solo and you're like shambles, and I feel like that's the only reason you could justify doing a late rotating solos in the 2020 meta, where people are more knowledgeable and educated. Yeah, and there's no mobility, right? Like there's a conversation where maybe in the future, maybe someone pulls up the YouTube video talking about late rotates, and they've added shockwaves back, right? Like shockwaves just like are game changers. They in vanilla Fortnite where there's no mobility and you have to really do positioning, then yeah, it's easier to pull it off. But yeah, that's gonna be episode 13 of Morning Coffee. For those of you guys in the stream, stick around. We're gonna jump into 14. But yeah, thank you guys on YouTube again, guys on YouTube. What are you doing? What are you guys doing on YouTube? 70% of you aren't subscribed. Come on, this is good content I'm giving you. Hit the sub button, please. I'm not gonna beg. Like this, this is what is this? All right, I'll catch you guys later on YouTube. Peace.